My husband and I embarked on a 400-mile journey to provide free childcare, allowing our son to enjoy his anniversary trip. Upon our arrival, our daughter-in-law directed us to sleep in the garage. "Please refrain from touching anything upstairs," she instructed. We dined on leftovers from plastic bowls by the water heater, and when I requested a blanket, she merely laughed and said, "Figure it out." On the day of their return, she informed the children that we were merely the hired help. Consequently, I began to pack my belongings, but not before reflecting on the situation. I am 64 years old, and my name is Marianne. My husband, Dennis, is 66. We reside in a quaint blue house in rural Missouri, complete with a garden, a bird feeder, and a porch swing that creaks in the wind. Retirement has slowed our pace of life, yet we remain actively engaged. We volunteer, undertake home repair projects, and lend assistance wherever it is needed. Our son Tyler, now 38, works in finance in Colorado Springs. In his youth, he exhibited a big heart, often bringing home stray animals and helping neighbors with tasks like raking leaves. We instilled in him the importance of treating others well, particularly family. 6 years ago, Tyler married Brittany, who is now 35. She is intelligent, career-focused, and poised, yet carries an air of emotional distance. Initially, she was not overtly unkind but maintained a cool demeanor, as if hesitant to form close relationships. While she was courteous during family gatherings, her smiles rarely reached her eyes, leaving me feeling as though I had to tread carefully around her, even when offering support. They have 2 children, Liam and Ellie, who mean the world to us. Although distance keeps us from seeing them often, we make a concerted effort to stay connected through phone calls and gifts. 3 weeks ago, Tyler called with exciting news. They were planning a surprise anniversary trip to Napa Valley for 5 days. He asked if Dennis and I could come to watch the kids, assuring us that they would cover our grocery expenses. We readily agreed, eager to help. I prepared meticulously, creating a checklist, baking banana bread, packing puzzles and coloring books, and even bringing a DVD player for movie nights. Dennis packed some tools, anticipating potential household repairs. The drive was long, nearly 400 miles, and we stopped only once for gas and once for coffee. 8 hours later, we arrived at their home around 5 p.m., but the atmosphere quickly shifted. Brittany greeted us without a smile or a word of gratitude, merely stating, "Oh, you're early. We're still packing." Although not overtly rude, her demeanor was chillier than expected, as if we were merely a service. Tyler soon joined us, looking fatigued but offering a warm hug and expressing gratitude for our trip. When he inquired about our sleeping arrangements, Brittany, still not making eye contact, curtly informed us that the garage had been prepared for us and requested we avoid going upstairs, wishing to keep the house tidy for their return. Initially, I thought it was a joke, but it quickly became clear that it was not. As we entered the garage, my heart sank. There was a cot squeezed next to the water heater, a folding chair with a blanket thrown over it, and 2 plastic bins crammed in the corner. The single pillow was thin and lumpy, with no real bedding, heating, or light beyond the harsh overhead bulb. I turned to Brittany and asked for an extra blanket. She merely smirked and said, "Figure it out," before turning back into the house. I stood there in shock, but Dennis gently placed his hand on my back and whispered, "Let's do this for the kids." That evening, we had dinner in the garage. Brittany had left Tupperware in the refrigerator with a note stating, "Dinner is ready. Use the plastic bowls. Nothing warm." There was no welcoming meal, just reheated spaghetti and steamed broccoli. We sat silently at the workbench, surrounded by the scent of old tires, with the door rattling each time the wind blew. The next morning brought discomfort. Sleeping on a cot without proper support left my back stiff, and Dennis awoke with a crick in his neck. However, the children's joy brightened our spirits. Liam rushed to hug my legs, while Ellie leapt into my arms excitedly, asking if I had brought the silly bear story. We read, played, made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and enjoyed cartoons, reminding me of the purpose of our visit. Despite the joyful moments, Brittany maintained strict rules. She sent daily text messages with instructions. No juice before lunch, no screen time until 4 p.m., and a reminder that Ellie didn't like carrots. Not once did she inquire about our well-being, not even asking if we found the garage acceptable. On the third night, as temperatures plummeted into the 30s, I asked Tyler if they had a spare space heater. He appeared guilty, mentioning there might be one in the attic but would check when they returned. Brittany overheard and coldly informed me, "There's a code in the closet. Use that if you're cold. We don't want the kids touching wires." Dennis remained silent, gazing down, and at that moment I recognized his simmering anger. Although he chose not to confront our son. He understood the importance of maintaining peace, especially in a situation where we were so desperately needed. Thus, we endured. For 4 nights we found ourselves in the garage, subsisting on cold leftovers and sneaking into the house early each morning to shower before the children awoke. We never sat on the couch or turned on the television. It felt as though we were prohibited from existing outside the confines of the garage. The day of their return finally arrived, and the children were ecstatic, rushing to the door at the sound of the car. "Mommy! Daddy!" they exclaimed. We stood off to the side, smiling, as Brittany knelt down to embrace them, saying, "Did you behave for the helpers?" "Helpers?" Tyler replied, a hint of confusion in his voice. "Mom, that's Grandma and Grandpa." Brittany dismissed him with a wave of her hand. I didn't want to confuse the kids. They had been told that help was coming to stay in the garage, and I felt invisible, standing there frozen. Dennis placed his hand on my back once more, but this time I pulled away, asserting, "I'm going to start packing." I retreated to the garage, retrieved our bags, and then returned to the house to gather our belongings. I took the handmade photo album that had taken me a year to compile, the family quilt I had sewn for Ellie upon her birth, and the slow cooker we gifted them for their wedding. I unplugged it and took it back with me. Dennis retrieved the toolbox he had given Tyler when he purchased the house, a premium set with Tyler's name engraved upon it, which remained unopened in the garage. We took everything we had ever given them, every item imbued with love. Before departing, I quietly told Tyler, "We love you, but we are not just help. We are your family, and we deserve better." We left, and since then, Tyler has not reached out. It has been nearly 2 weeks since we left Colorado Springs, and I have received no calls, no texts, no emails, nothing. I found myself checking my phone repeatedly, hoping against hope for a message from him, perhaps an inquiry about our safe return or an apology for the circumstances, but silence persisted. Dennis remained taciturn as well, but I could sense his inner turmoil. He busied himself with repairs around the house, fixing things that did not require attention, repainting the mailbox, and restoring the kitchen tiles. This behavior signaled his frustration. It wasn't directed at me, but rather at the entire situation. On day 13, my sister called, having seen a post from one of Brittany's aunts on Facebook. "You better sit down," she said. Brittany had shared a lengthy message filled with insincere smiles and falsehoods, expressing huge gratitude toward her amazing parents for their help during the anniversary trip. She claimed to be grateful for the extra hands that made the week smooth for the kids, labeling us as supportive family. I felt a wave of rage wash over me as I read that post repeatedly. The comments were the most painful part. "You're so lucky to have parents like that. Hope they spoiled the kids. That's what love looks like." Dennis stood behind me, reading over my shoulder, and without uttering a word, he turned and walked into the garage. A few moments later he returned with an old notebook, one of those yellow legal pads he uses for wiring diagrams or home projects. He opened it to reveal a list, documenting every gift, favor, and repair he had ever performed for Tyler's house, all written in his meticulous handwriting. He had installed ceiling fans in the bedrooms, purchased parts himself, built deck railings, following city notices, replaced the water heater at his own expense, rewired garage lights, and repaired a leaking dishwasher. He had moved the washer and dryer to the upstairs laundry. When I saw the total at the bottom, my heart sank. Nearly $9,000 worth of repairs and items over the span of 6 years. This figure did not even encompass my contributions. The nursery furniture we had purchased when they were financially strained, the hand-stitched baby blankets, the birthday party decorations I crafted from scratch each year, the grocery gift, cards, the gas money, and the holiday dinners I hosted to give them a break. The realization hit me like a freight train. We had been taken advantage of, not just during that trip, but for years. I resolved to no longer remain silent. That very night, I created my own list and penned a letter, not to Brittany, but to Tyler. Tyler, you are our son, and we will always love you, but we are not blind. We have been supporting you and your family for years, through our time, money, labor, and love. We have never asked for anything in return, nor have we held it against you. Until now. We drove 400 miles to help you. We stayed in your garage without complaint. We endured the cold and went hungry. We respected your home because your wife made us feel like strangers. We refrained from arguing to avoid hurting you. But when Brittany told your kids we were just the help, and you said nothing, something broke. We are not angry anymore. We are simply done. If you wish to have a relationship with us, you will need to seek it out. We will not reach out again. I printed the letter and mailed it with tracking, confirming that it had been delivered. Yet, still nothing. A few days later, Dennis received a call, but it was not from Tyler. It was Tyler's boss. He explained that Dennis had done some electrical work in their home office the previous year, wiring new outlets for Tyler's work-from-home setup, which Dennis had completed at no cost, as was his custom. Now, the boss was reaching out because something had come up in conversation. Tyler had boasted about the expenses he incurred while upgrading the home office, implying that he had hired a professional and paid a premium. The boss wanted Dennis's name for future referrals. Dennis told him the truth. I did it for free. He's my son. There was a long pause on the line before the boss replied, I see. The following day, Tyler finally called. I answered, maintaining my composure. Hey, Mom. Hey, Tyler. There was a moment of silence before he said, Did you really take the crock-pot? I replied. I took everything I gave you. Another pause lingered in the air. I didn't know Brittany said those things about the garage and the kids. He sighed, trying to justify her behavior. She didn't mean it like that, I countered. Don't lie to me. Another long silence followed. He added, Dad told my boss about the wiring, and he told the truth. I could get in trouble. Mom, you don't understand the position I'm in. At this, my anger flared once more. No, you don't understand. You allowed your wife to treat us like trash. You let your children believe we were strangers. You want to talk about positions? Try sleeping in a garage after driving 8 hours to help you. I hung up the phone. Dennis stood nearby holding a mug of coffee. Anything? He asked. I shook my head. He's still choosing her. Dennis nodded in understanding. Let him. I wished that would mark the end of it, but it did not. 2 days later, an envelope arrived. Inside was a letter from Brittany. No greeting, no apology. Simply a message stating, if you wanted to burn this bridge, you've done it. Don't expect to see the kids again until you learn some respect. I stared at the letter, my hands trembling. This was not over, not by a long shot. After reading Brittany's letter, I did not cry. Instead, I felt a chilling emptiness. She had drawn a line in ink. Don't expect to see the kids again. For the first time in my life, I believed her. Dennis read the letter over my shoulder, and for a long while, he remained silent. Afterward, Dennis stepped outside and took apart the lawnmower, meticulously cleaning each blade before reassembling it. He then mowed the yard in straight, furious lines until the sun dipped below the horizon. This is how he copes when his heart aches, by fixing what he can control. Meanwhile, I remained seated at the kitchen table, the letter from Brittany clutched tightly in my hands, trying to comprehend how our own family had devolved into this situation. We had given them everything. The following week, I began boxing up the remaining photographs of Tyler and his family, not to discard them, but simply to remove them from my sight. I no longer wanted to look at that Christmas photo where Brittany forced a smile in front of our tree, nor did I wish to remember the moment Ellie first called me Mimi, a name that had filled me with pride. All of it hurt now. I anticipated that things would quiet down after that, but then my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Monica, Tyler's ex-girlfriend from college, a sweet girl I had always liked. Although we had lost touch, she still sent Christmas cards occasionally. "Hi, Mrs. R. Sorry, Marianne. I saw something I thought you should know," she began. She explained that a mutual friend of hers and Brittany's had shared something from a local moms group online, a private thread that had been screenshotted and circulated. The post was from Brittany, who had written a lengthy, bitter narrative, filled with distortions and fabrications. She had portrayed us as the villains, claiming that my in-laws had come uninvited, slept in the garage even though a guest room was offered, complained incessantly, and created drama with their children. She concluded by asking if she was wrong for cutting us off. I was astounded. She had turned us into villains. But then a twist emerged. An old neighbor from their time in Aurora chimed in, recalling that we had built their deck for free and babysat during Brittany's marketing conferences. "This doesn't add up," she stated. Soon others joined in, questioning the validity of Brittany's story and asking for evidence. Some of her own friends reached out to me privately, expressing confusion and concern. One remarked, "I didn't realize you were the same Mimi Brittany always posted about. You seemed so close. What happened?" I didn't respond immediately, but inspired by their messages, I pulled out a binder from our hall closet. I had kept every card Liam and Ellie had drawn for us, along with thank you notes and scribbled "Love you, Mimi and Pop" messages. I also had hundreds of photos, memories of me holding Ellie after her first recital, and Dennis teaching Liam how to fish, along with birthday parties and sleepovers. I crafted a simple message for my own Facebook page. "We may not be welcome anymore, but we will always remember the love we gave and the time we spent." I emphasized that these moments were real and meant everything to us. For anyone who had heard a different version of events, I shared our truth through photos and letters, posting a collection spanning 20 years of love. I refrained from tagging anyone or naming names, but people quickly recognized the context. Within hours, my post went viral, attracting messages from Tyler's high school friends, Brittany's former colleagues, and even a neighbor who recalled Dennis fixing their heater. During a snowstorm, all expressed disbelief at Brittany's portrayal, affirming that we did not deserve such treatment and offering their support. Then, that same night around 10 p.m., as Dennis and I prepared for bed, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Tyler. "You need to take down that post. Brittany is losing it." Dennis didn't respond but simply looked at me. I replied, "Let them lose it." Tyler texted again, "She's threatening to leave me if I don't cut ties with you." I stared at the screen for a long moment before taking Dennis's phone and responding with one sentence. "That's your decision, but we won't be shamed for telling the truth." He read my response, did not argue, and we turned off the lights. The next morning brought an unexpected surprise. The doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, I found Brittany's mother, Cheryl, standing on our porch. We hadn't seen her since Tyler's wedding, and she had always been quiet back then. However, now her jaw was set, and her lips pressed tightly together as if she were trying to contain something. "Can I come in?" she asked. I nodded, inviting her inside. We sat at the table and I poured her a cup of coffee, which she didn't touch. "I saw your post," she began, glancing down at her hands and picking at her nails. "And Brittany's." I remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "I'm not surprised about Brittany, but I am sorry for how you were treated and what my daughter has become." I was at a loss for words. Cheryl continued, "She's always been controlling. It's what her father and I used to fight about. I left when she was 13. Her father gave her everything. No rules, no boundaries. When she met Tyler, nice, polite Tyler, I knew she would eat him alive." I swallowed hard as she revealed more of her daughter's past. "She told me not to talk to you, said you were trying to turn the family against her, that you poisoned the kids." Cheryl paused before adding, "But I know her, and I believe you. I saw the photos, the letters." She then recalled the quilt I had made for Brittany, one that had been folded and donated the following spring. Cheryl flinched at the memory. After a moment of silence, she said something I never expected to hear. "I want to help you with the kids." My heart raced in my chest as she continued, "She's banning you from seeing them, but I still have court-approved visitation every other month from before, when she tried to cut me off, and I'm still their legal grandmother. If you want to see them again, come with me on my next visit. No one can stop us." I blinked, unsure of the legality of her offer. Yet she spoke with such certainty, having already navigated her own battle. "You would do that?" I asked. "I should have done more, years ago," she replied. "Maybe if I had, my daughter wouldn't be this cruel." 2 weeks later, we boarded a plane back to Colorado. Not to Brittany's house, but to meet Cheryl at a public location for her visit. We arranged to meet in a library parking lot. When we arrived, the kids spotted us and shouted, "Mimi! Pop!" They sprinted into our arms. Ellie clung to my neck, crying, while Liam wrapped around Dennis's waist, and I felt overwhelmed, not from sadness, but from the depth of love and longing I had missed. We took the kids for ice cream, strolled through the park, and played on the swings. I read the silly bear story to them twice. They didn't ask about their parents. They were simply joyful to be with us. We kept the visit brief, just a couple of hours, to ensure Cheryl adhered to her custody terms. She promised to include us every time moving forward and informed Brittany that we had unexpectedly run into each other. Brittany lost it over text but was powerless to intervene. The law was on Cheryl's side. The following day I received a letter from a lawyer, not official legal documents, but a threat from Brittany demanding that we cease all contact with their children or face further action. I forwarded the letter to Cheryl's lawyer, who already had a record of Brittany's past attempts at custody interference. This marked the beginning of a slow but inevitable reckoning, not through loud confrontations or arguments, but through the real-life consequences of Brittany's actions. Cheryl filed for extended visitation rights, citing emotional alienation, and submitted copies of Brittany's Facebook post, our letter, and her threats. I provided a sworn statement, as did Dennis and even Brittany's cousin, who confirmed that the narratives didn't align. 3 weeks later, we watched the court proceedings unfold via video call. Brittany attempted to mask her unease, but under pressure she snapped, hurling insults at Cheryl and labeling us as leeches. The judge disapproved of her behavior, and ultimately, Cheryl was granted joint holiday visitation, and one weekend a month, with the ability to delegate time to family members at her discretion, which included us. From that point forward, we saw the kids at least once a month. Tyler remained silent during the entire hearing, failing to defend either side. That evening, he sent me a text. "Why are you doing this?" I chose not to respond. He texted again, "You're tearing us apart." Months later, I received a message from an unknown number. "Is this Marianne? This is Diane from Tyler's work. I thought you should know he resigned today." She explained that Complaints had been filed regarding dishonesty about the electrical work I had done, which ultimately led to his dismissal. "Sorry if this is awkward, but I thought you deserved to know," she added. Brittany, too, faced consequences. News of her post had circulated among her firm, and one of the moms she had insulted turned out to be a senior client, resulting in the loss of a promotion. The saga of the garage grandparents became a local whisper. While we did not celebrate these developments, we also felt no remorse. As for myself, I took a step back and reflected on my own actions. I began asking difficult questions. Why hadn't I set boundaries sooner? Why did I continue giving when respect was absent? Why had I allowed someone to treat me as less than family? The truth was that I bore some responsibility, not for what transpired, but for allowing it to continue for too long. Consequently, I resolved to change. I stopped saying yes out of guilt and ceased explaining myself to those who were indifferent. I focused on living for myself and for Dennis. We continued to see the kids, still making banana bread together. Dennis even built a treehouse for Liam in Cheryl's yard. Ellie now affectionately calls Cheryl Nana and still refers to me as Mimi. We have not spoken to Tyler since that day, not until he demonstrates that he is ready to be a son, rather than merely a pawn for Brittany. The last time I saw her, it was at a distance during a school play to which Cheryl had invited us. The children were unaware that their parents were present. We remained at the back, watching quietly. Afterward, Ellie spotted us and waved. Brittany saw this, and for once she remained silent, simply watching as her daughter raced into our arms first. I won't lie, that moment felt incredibly satisfying. Because regardless of the narrative Brittany attempts to construct, the truth has already been etched into our lives. It lives on in Ellie's embrace, in Liam's drawings, in the moments we cherished, and the love we shared. And that, ultimately, is the part they can never take away from us.